So they've taken down the timber castle and they've built a stone one in its place. And the stone, we think, guys, has come from our robbed out Anglo-Saxon monastery, which is what we're digging up.
Berkeley Castle and its accompanying town lie in southwest Gloucestershire. The castle was founded by the great Norman magnate William Fitzosborne, a close friend and relative of William the Conqueror, who built a motte and bailey fortress here in 1067. In the mid-12th century, Robert Fitzharding began modifying the castle into one of stone, starting with the construction of the keep, most of which still remains today. The castle is a formidable fortress, and as a border stronghold, its initial purpose was one of defence against the Welsh. In order to achieve this, the castle is ideally situated on a spur of land that offers a vantage point over its surrounding landscape. This location was probably chosen because it was the only suitable land available to build on at the time the Normans arrived, and it is likely to have remained accessible because of its original use as an Anglo-Saxon cemetery. Associated with this cemetery was a high-status Anglo-Saxon nunnery, which, although implying a female population, would have included a number of men. This religious building probably went out of use shortly before the Normans settled on Berkeley soil, and Robert Fitzharding may have constructed the base of his keep from its partial remains. The Berkeley family are directly descended from Fitzharding, and the castle that he helped to build has been under the ownership of one Berkeley or another for nearly 900 years. The Berkeley family still live in the castle today, making it the oldest building in the country to be occupied by the same family who built it. And today, many centuries after their forebears exploited Saxon stone for the construction of their castle, it is the current generation of the family that are giving the archaeologists the chance to rediscover traces of this lost religious community.
Fada ora, ddu they art on hiavanum, si ddyn nama Yehalgod. To come ddyn richa, your worther ddyn willa, on eoddan swa on hiavanum. Sul os tudag, or yn y dagwam lichan laff, and for yivus or y yiltas. Swa we for yiva tham, they with us a yilta, and yeladas on cost nunja, ac alusas from uvala, sultlichi see it swa on edge nissa. Amen.
We've got some fantastic archaeology this year, so it'll be a real pleasure to take you around and show you what we found.
What we're trying to do is understand the medieval archaeology and history of Berkeley. Berkeley has an enormous great castle, a magnificent medieval church, but actually Berkeley is much more than that. It's the centre of a landscape, it's a place where a lot of the dramatic events in English history took place. It's a place that sort of breathes as a repository, if you like, of the history of Britain over the last 2,000 years. And what we're doing with the archaeology is to try and uncover that history.
What I'm particularly interested in is the impact of the castle on the earlier Saxon landscape. So I'm really keen to find out what happens to Anglo-Saxon minsters and Anglo-Saxon landscape when the Normans arrive and start to construct the castle. One of the things that I've been drawn into is looking at how the minster lays in the land and, you know, obviously the life of women in the medieval period in the religious institution. In double house minsters, the women outnumber the men. The men are only there to say mass on behalf of the women, okay, because the women can't celebrate mass on their own. So actually what you're looking at is what we would later, when the Normans arrive, call a nunnery. All right, but the problem is before the Normans arrived, minster, monastery, nunnery, abbey, all used interchangeably. You can have a nunnery full of men, all right? So it doesn't work until the Normans arrive, what we imagine a nunnery to be. So essentially we've got a community of women, and the best way I can explain it to you is it would be a bit like a modern bungalow retirement estate.
2010 has been exceptional for Anglo-Saxon finds. Now that we're down onto what we believe to be Anglo-Saxon archaeology, it's no surprise that we are now picking up such diverse finds as Anglo-Saxon dice or Anglo-Saxon strap-ins with zoomorphic heads, these being dragon-esque heads dating from the 10th century. But also we're finding Anglo-Saxon coinage, and this is a very small silver coin called a skeet, which is really quite rare in this part of the country. And this skeet dates from 695 to 740 AD. And it's continental type coming in from northern Germany, a place called Frisia.
Running underneath all this 12th to 14th and Tudor material, we should have Saxon features. What we're going to do now is we're going to go down.
It may look as if we're already quite deep, but we suspect we're going to go down another 30, 40 centimetres throughout. So at the end, it's just going to be an empty pit. But out of that will be such an enormous amount of information that we'll be able to tell a completely new story about Anglo-Saxon Berkeley.
So in the process of cleaning back this surface, we discovered two parallel lines of stones with blocked ends. So we wonder if this might be an Anglo-Saxon weaving loom. And what we would have had here is a beam slot with stakes going down through. And the evidence for that is that we have packing stones and a gap, which looks like there could have been a post hole, then packing stones and a post hole. So we'd have had the beam going across and then the uprights going down through to obviously give it as much stability as possible. And this is down into the Anglo-Saxon layers that we're looking for, so this is quite hopeful.
When it rains, because we are down onto really nice clay, the clay holds all the moisture in it, and as you walk across it, you'll just attach it to your boots. We've got some really nice delicate Anglo-Saxon burning features, and basically if we walk in the trench as it rains, we'll pick up the burning and just drag it all the way across the trench and essentially destroy it. So if it really starts to rain and starts to hold the moisture, we will have to pack up and leave.
We've just been excavating in the trench in the Jenner Garden, and this piece of blockwork's come out, and this is exactly the kind of thing I've been looking for. That is non-local stone, it's grey, you can see that it's been worked, it's half a brick. So essentially we've just come round to the base of the great keep of Berkeley Castle, where I'm convinced that essentially this is where the remains of our Anglo-Saxon nunnery have gone. And if I take this brick over to the wall and place it on, you can see that it is actually identical to the size of the stonework. This, I'm convinced, is where the remains of the monastic buildings have gone.
Berkeley Castle is the physical representation of a watershed in English history, epitomising the decline of Anglo-Saxon power in the wake of Norman rule. The castle still dominates the landscape today, and is reminiscent of a time when the Normans reigned supreme. Nonetheless, the inclusion of Saxon stonework within its walls is a subtle yet continual reminder to the presence of a community that existed before them. The Berkeley Castle project is allowing us to make sense of a complex landscape, one that has been used and altered over many historical periods. It also helps us to gain an understanding as to why this one piece of land has been culturally and historically important again and again throughout time.
I think I can probably see this project continuing for maybe another 5 years, maybe another 5 years on top of that, who knows. We've got an Anglo-Saxon port to investigate. Personally, for me, I really want to go back closer to the castle and get to grips with the Norman imposition on the Saxon landscape.